Ciao for now. Hi everyone. I'm going to make a video now about the negatives of Italy. I got a comment from one of my subscribers, Pied Piper 1201, asked me if I could make a video about the negatives of Italy after doing a comparison. Last week I was in the UK and I compared a few things. So here you go, Pied Piper 1201. I know you said you were going to move to Italy, or you're thinking of moving, you've got dual nationality. So I'm going to make a little video about, I'm going to talk a little bit about the negatives from my point of view. Now don't get me wrong, a lot of these things can probably be seen as positives from another's perspective. But from what I've encountered here, these are the negatives for me. I think number one, I would say the general moaning culture, complaining culture here is widespread. I think it's accepted here by society that your situation or the actual situation you're in is not just down to you. It's not a factor of you, of what you've done, but there's lots of factors involved, including bad luck, circumstances, situation, family members, this and that. So moaning is the favourite pastime here. People just moan about everything and anything. You know, it's if you're not used to it and you get into the swing of things here in Italy, it can get you down sometimes because it's quite a negative culture, I would say. Just moaning culture about everything. I mean, when I was growing up in the UK, I was always taught that moaning gives you something to do, but it's like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it never gets you anywhere. Whereas people, that sort of culture is not, that is not accepted in the general culture here, I would say. So that is definitely a negative. It's part of the small talk as well. It's also part of the small talk. People here, that's another thing I will go on to. A difference is that here, when you're with a group of people, silence is never really accepted. Whereas in the UK, silence, maybe a couple of seconds, even a couple of minutes silence is more accepted. Whereas here, small talk, we have to talk all the time. Silence is seen upon as a bad thing when you speak to someone. So because of that, small talk is really is a big thing here, if that makes sense. And moaning is part of that small talk. I also think it's true that in the UK sometimes we don't express all of our opinions. You know, we hide things away instead of, we think that if we don't talk about it, then it'll go away. The problem will go away. So that is part of it. One thing again linked to this is health issues. People talk a lot about their health problems to maybe someone that they don't really know as well. I always found that strange. It's maybe not a negative, it's maybe a good thing that people discuss their health problems. But sometimes, yeah, it's not. It's too much information, TMI, too much information is what my mother says. Another thing here in Italy, I would say, is that everything is grey. It's less black and white. Everything is more elastic, and it depends. Like, for example, if you go to, I don't know, the town hall and you need to get some documents done, everything depends really on how the person you've got behind the counter, how they're feeling that day, what they had to eat. If they're in a good mood, then you're more likely to get things done. So everything's really grey. There's no real black and white. You know, I remember in the UK, and you grow up, you know, you go to school, you do this, you do that, you do it, and it's sort of, it's more boxed thinking, where everything here is really more grey. An example as well, if the police stop you here, you can sort of negotiate with them and say, you know, I'm not saying that they're corrupt. I'm not saying you can put, you know, a £50 note or a €50 note in their hand. That it doesn't work like that. But you can negotiate with them. You say, oh, I was speeding because this and that. Whereas in the UK, things are a lot more rigid. So it's a lot more elastic. Again, this is a positive and a negative, but for me, it was more a negative because if you're used to the UK, it's harder to get things done because you've really got to get into the realms, or you've got to get into the brains of the way people work. I mean, I've lived in 3 or 4 countries, and I've always said that it's like if you grow up in a culture, it's like a program is in your brain. You've got a certain program. If you move it to another culture, then it's a different program that's in your brain. I mean, you can still speak, but there's something that goes above the words. And in the beginning here, it was a negative thing, that it was just too elastic. Everything was too grey. You know, there's no real black or white. So when you want to get things done, you need black or white. And that moves on to my next negative, bureaucracy. Everything is very long-winded here. And it's very long-winded because people accept it to be long-winded. People generally accept. I mean, I just changed my driving license from a UK one to an Italian one, and the equivalent of the DVLA. So the equivalent of the DVLA here is called la motorizzazione. And I'm not joking, yeah. I reckon I went there 25 times to get my driving license changed. Bureaucracy. That is a real negative. But it's accept that it exists because people accept it. That's the way it is. You know, a lot of these things are ingrained in the culture, and it's difficult to change because that's the way people accept them. So yeah, I would say bureaucracy is a big, big negative. Another thing is the general perception people have of money here. It's not well seen upon to be successful and to be rich like it is in the UK. Again, I think that goes back to the sort of general assumption that the situation you're in is not just because of what you do, but it's another external factor. So a lot of it is seen as jealousy, I think, and luck. They think that if people are successful, they've just been lucky, or nepotism's been involved. You know, they've had the right people telling them to put them in the right places. So it's not accepted here in general that if someone's successful, then it means they've done well, you know. And if someone's got money, it's frowned upon almost, you know. On a societal level, yeah, I'm saying on a society as a whole. So that, again, that was, I would say that was a negative because, I mean, everyone wants to do well in life, don't they? Everyone aspires to do the best they can. But if you're surrounded by people who sort of look down upon you because you're trying to do your best, then it's a negative. So let me move on to my last negative of Italy. People talk a lot, yeah. So you've got a lot of small talk. People talk a lot, and a lot of things are not done. If you know what I mean. In the UK, you say something, you do. People in general say things and they do them. Whereas here, they say la differenza tra il mare la differenza tra il dire e il fare c'è il mare. So that means basically the difference between saying something and doing something. There's a whole sea, there's a whole ocean, which is true. You know, there's people say, you know, you meet someone in town. You haven't seen for a while. They'll say to you, "Oh, we'll meet up maybe in a couple of weeks. We'll have some dinner." You won't hear from them again for a couple of weeks or a couple of years. Sorry. So people don't stick to their word as much as they do in the UK. Again, it goes back to the grey, elastic area. Everything's a lot more greyer and elastic. So I would say that was a negative because you know if you're moving to a country, you want to you want to be able to do things, and it's difficult to sort of read what people are doing, or you know how they would act, and how I think it goes back as well to the common law. The common sense in the UK common sense doesn't exist here, and I may be wrong here, but I think common sense comes from the common law in the UK, and we have sort of a common law, whereas here it's a world to itself. Everyone thinks differently, says different things, does different things. There's no sort of common sense here. So I would say that was a negative. I mean, there's a lot of positives as well, and I'm sure what I've said or what I've talked about can be seen on the opposite and taken as a positive. But guys, this is my take on it. So, Pied Piper 1201. That's your video. Negatives about Italy. Prepare yourself because there are a lot of negatives. Obviously, there's great stuff as well. But that's it. Ciao for now, everyone. I'm going to go to Madrid in a couple of days. It's Christmas. I'm going to go to Madrid, so I think I'll do a video about Madrid, differences between Spain and Italy, because I've lived in Spain as well. Ciao for now.